If your school year is going anything like mine, then the honeymoon phase, where your students are angels and they will do anything in their power to please you, is long gone. At this point, your blood is 50% caffeine and your hair is at least 75% dry shampoo. You know the exact number of school days left until winter break, and you have already strategically planned out your personal days and sick days in the coming weeks to help you survive until then. You've said, "I'll just wait until it's quiet," more times than you can possibly count, and you've repeated the directions for every assignment at least 5 times, even though they were printed directly on the page. You've skipped lunch or stayed hours after school to hold a parent-teacher conference only to have the parent blame you for their child's difficulties. You've stayed up all night and spent hundreds of dollars in order to plan lessons that engage and inspire your students, only to spend the whole lesson managing disruptive behavior. You've put your entire life into teaching, yet you're left feeling unappreciated, undervalued, and discouraged. I want you to realize that you are not alone. I know sometimes it feels like you are the only teacher who's struggling, the only teacher who's questioning their career choice, or the only teacher who's dealing with disrespectful students who by no means appreciate the amount of time and effort you put into your lessons. Now, this probably sounds harsh or mean, but you knew what you were signing up for when you decided to become a teacher. You knew you would put in hours outside of the classroom to plan lessons and grade papers. You knew you would encounter difficult students who would make you want to pull your hair out. You knew you would spend tons of money on your classroom and wouldn't be compensated by your below average salary. You knew you would face all of these obstacles. But I think the reason that so many of us teachers are feeling discouraged and frustrated is because we thought we could beat the statistics. We thought we would put in the extra hours and inspire those difficult children and spend that extra money, and we would somehow become the world's best teacher, receive all these awards, and be appreciated for our time and effort, and that hasn't happened. You still face controversy about the content you're teaching. You still encounter people that argue with you that teaching is an easy career because you have summers off. You still deal with parents who don't think you're doing your job well enough. You still face doubt and distrust and criticism, and as a result, you feel like you aren't doing enough. You feel like you're failing and it's your fault. You feel like you have to put in more time and more money in order to get the results you dreamed of having. I'm here to tell you that the problem isn't you. The problem is our society's continual pressure on teachers to be miracle workers. We're human. We're not always going to be able to meet the expectations that are placed on us, especially with the time and resources we're given. The data isn't always going to support or reflect the effort we put into our jobs on a daily basis. The data doesn't show the nights you've spent crying or worrying about one of your students who doesn't have a good home life. The data doesn't show the weekends you've given up in order to plan lessons that meet all of your students' needs, even though they're on 5 different grade levels. The data doesn't show the genuine love you have for your students and the difference you've made in their lives. So who cares about the data? I know it's hard to say that because you have so much pressure on you to improve test scores, increase rigor, and somehow between all that, you have to teach your students to become decent human beings, but screw the data. All that should matter to you is that your students are better people when they leave your classroom than when they entered it. All that should matter to you is that you are the only person in that child's life to give them a smile, give them a hug, and make them realize that they matter in this world. All that should matter to you is that you have given your students the confidence to know that they can do anything they set their mind to. Despite all the pressure and all the expectations, don't lose sight of what really matters. You are making such a tremendous difference in the lives of so many children, and you could be the only one that believes in them. Whether it feels like it or not, your students do care and do appreciate the extra effort you put into your lessons. You are so much more important to your students than you even realize. For some of your students, you are the only reason they come to school every day. Your lesson can completely crash and burn. You can spill coffee all over your brand new blouse, and you can raise your voice at your students to stop talking, even though you swore you would never be that teacher because you're so overly exhausted, and your students will still think you're the greatest thing to ever walk this earth. That's why we do it. That's why we give up our weekends. That's why we stay up late and wake up early. That's why we spend our entire paycheck on supplies for our lessons and snacks for our students. That's why we deal with the criticism. That's why we are willing to pour our entire lives into our jobs without expecting a thank you. Because our job as a teacher is the absolute best job anyone could ever have. It's significant, it's meaningful, and most importantly, it's worth every late night, every dollar, every cent, and every tear because our students deserve it. Every student deserves to have a teacher like you in his or her life, and they are so lucky to have you. It's okay to feel frustrated, and it's okay to feel defeated, but don't give up. It's hard, but it's worth it, and your students need you more than you know.